Hi, I'm Sarah Ann Taylor. I'm having a very bad hair day, and I'm in between deciding what color I should be going. I tried a red wig that I bought from Timu, just useless, looks terrible. So I thought I would let you know that what I'm doing is I'm reading from my first novel, Stalking the Werewolf, and I'm making sure that you have a little idea of what's going on. I hope you enjoy it. Here it goes. Chapter 1. Silence took over the darkness it lived in. Like neon Chinese lanterns in pitch blackness, a pair of giant red eyes peered down into the dimension it prepared to roll itself down into as easily as breathing. A soft huff pushed through its black lips. It took in a soft breath, smelling its food options as one rare one crossed into its olfactory receptors. It salivated, savoring the scent of blood and meat for a moment. Then it poured itself down into the dimension of the park below. The grass and open field came into its view as it fell gently to the ground, manifesting softly. It surveyed the area to see if it had been detected, and seeing nothing, it settled back into the ticks, fleas, and mosquito existence necessary to tolerate in its hunt. Dr. Paige Ballard, professor of veterinary medicine in Chippewa Falls University of Wisconsin, stepped out of her car. Chippewa Falls was only really known for the Leinenkugel's brewery and a scenic river. The university she taught in was infinitesimally small. She moved toward the bushes she wanted to explore. The Kettle Moraine Forest Park she'd driven to spanned 156,000 acres and divided into giant units. The forest hid its secret reputation from so many of its visitors. It secretly harbored what few had witnessed: creatures. Some local zealots insisted devils lived in the darkness of the park. Others biked, hiked, or skied in the stunning beauty of nature oblivious to them, while others poked around in places the creatures lived in, foolishly trying to see them. The seekers often became the missing pictures placed on posters by crushed family and friends wondering what happened to their beloveds. Paige slowed her pace and stepped carefully toward the small leopard frog she now spotted. Behind her, the trees held sparrows chirping and cheeping at each other. They jumped or flew from branch to branch or to other trees. Paige's naturally pale skin had become worn and deeply tanned over time. Her nicely balanced nose complemented her sweetheart lips, but it was her eyes that others yapped about. She kept in shape by rarely stopping to slob around, even on weekends. It was her only saving grace against middle-age weight gain since she loathed exercise. She eased in to check the frog in front of her. Being older, her knees that were nearing retirement age gave a crack as she kneeled closer to the ground. She reached forward and picked up the tiny frog, pleased at her success. Her small hand, encased in a latex glove, held the frog tighter as it tried to leap. She reached with her other hand to wriggle enough to get her cell phone out of her back pocket. Paige tapped buttons to begin a video of her findings. Spine is relatively long with a fused Euro style, she commented, describing the frog's tailbone. The lack of hind leg fusion appears severe enough to interfere with flexion and release during biomechanics for propulsion. She turned the small frog gently to investigate more, her knees groaning in the pebbles and twigs under them. She rearranged herself, managing to get off one sharp twig. The relief felt like a sighing wave rolling through her. Tibia and fibula do not appear to be fused on the... Paige turned the tiny oval-spotted brown frog this way and that to check for details. Only then did she mentally catch up and notice the utter silence encircling her. Nothing moved. It was as if the birds, bugs, and critters were holding their collective breaths. The slight wind had turned off, as if a movie wind machine had been ordered killed by the director. Then a sound stepped over the silence to command Paige's attention. She leaned over the bush beside her, trying to see what might have caused it. The frog's irregular back right leg that had held her attention suddenly got blotted out by the question of what was happening. The silence had been replaced by the fresh sound pushing its way into her senses. An animal was pouncing and killing another. Whatever the apex predator was, it seemed to be too damn close to her. Tearing, shredding, a brief animal's pained cry tore at her heart. A deep, commanding growl, unlike any she had ever heard, its din so loud it might have been a lion in a tiny closet. She cringed, dropped the tiny frog, and slapped her hands over her ears as she shrank away from the agony it banged into her ears. Dust swirled beside her like a tiny tornado, making her huff away the dust from her nose. The sounds were suddenly over and the pain dulled. She lifted her hands and heard a plane flying overhead, no doubt from Timmerman Airport just 10 minutes away. The quiet buzz was welcome, even as it dropped in tone, as the small twin-seater moved further overhead. Paige crooked an arm up to block the glaring sun from her incredibly pale blue eyes, with her slight hint of aging at their edges. She watched it fly toward the east. As quiet fell again, she turned to peer at the odd leg of the northern leopard frog, only to remember she had dropped it. It was nowhere in sight. She turned and peered around the sizable bush she was sitting behind. What she saw left her frozen. Something was now feasting on a mangled, brown, fresh kill. Deer. The carcass was helter-skelter in its hands. As if a dial tone had been inserted in her brain, Paige's thoughts stayed still, unable to process anything, let alone the impossible details. Even as it was partly obscured by the still settling dust, she could still see the image clearly enough in her mind to know she was not hallucinating. She briefly questioned whether the frog was misidentified and could possibly be a toad or poison dart frog. That might be a reason for hallucination. She quickly threw off the concept. The type of frog to poison her and possibly affect her mind would be in Central and South America, not Wisconsin. Wearing gloves and avoiding contact with its skin would nullify any possible contamination even then. Only then did Paige take in the impossible data. The werewolf easily tore open the meal with its razor-sharp claws. The deer's belly was a joy to slice through, as the creature's saliva gathered and kicked hormones into a near rage of anticipation for him. Food, its mind said. A wolf-like face, smeared with blood across its muzzle, was gobbling down the innards of the deer, but it held the body with its paws upward. No wolf, dog, or coyote can move their arms and paws in that way, she diagnosed to herself, getting her thoughts back into gear. She moved further behind the bush, now afraid her mind was overcome from something or that her eyes were misinterpreting the sight. She took a small breath, blinked, and peeked around the bush again. The deer carcass was now slung over the shoulder of the retreating, upright, striding, very tall something. This is available on Amazon, and yes, there are other people who have got a title of Stalking the Werewolf. Mine is Sarah Ann Taylor. I sincerely hope you enjoyed it, and have a lovely holiday.